The dim glow of the dispatch center's computer screens illuminated the room like eerie halos. For Emma, the night shifts were an endless symphony of monotony and adrenaline, where the hum of fluorescent lights competed with the crackle of the police scanner. She had grown accustomed to the strange cadence of the job, calm periods shattered by bursts of chaos. But nothing could have prepared her for what happened that night. It started with a call at 2:13 a.m., the witching hour of emergencies when desperation seemed to creep out of the shadows. Emma answered with her usual steadiness, her voice calm and measured. 911, what's your emergency? The line crackled, and for a moment, all she heard was heavy breathing. She was about to repeat her question when a shaky, whispering voice came through. There's someone in my house. Emma's fingers flew over her keyboard, logging the address that appeared on her screen. Her training kicked in, her tone firm but soothing. Stay on the line with me. Are you in a safe place? The woman's voice was barely audible. I'm hiding in the closet. I think he's downstairs. Emma's heart quickened. The sound of a faint creak came through the call, and Emma strained to hear. Okay, stay very quiet. Help is on the way. Can you describe him? The woman hesitated. I don't know him. I just woke up and heard someone walking. I saw him through the crack in the door. He's tall, wearing a hoodie. Emma relayed the details to the nearest patrol units. Her fingers were steady, but her mind raced. The location was rural, far from the nearest town. Response times out there could feel like an eternity. Do you know if any doors or windows were unlocked? Emma asked. The woman's breath hitched. I don't think so. Oh God, he's coming upstairs. Emma's blood ran cold. She quickly typed an update for the officers. Subject is moving toward the second floor. Homeowner is hiding. Stay silent. Don't hang up, Emma whispered, though she knew the woman couldn't see her nodding encouragement. The woman's breathing quickened. Emma could hear the muffled sound of footsteps, deliberate and slow. A pause, then the faint creak of a floorboard. He's outside the closet, the woman whispered, her voice trembling with terror. He's just standing there. Emma's pulse thundered in her ears. She glanced at the ETA for the officers, still several minutes out. Don't move, she said. You're doing great. They're almost there. A long silence followed, broken only by the sound of both women breathing. Emma heard a soft thud through the phone. She froze. He's knocking on the door, the woman stammered. Emma fought to keep her voice steady. He doesn't know you're in there. Just keep quiet. The knocking grew louder, more insistent. Then, without warning, it stopped. The silence was deafening. Emma leaned forward, gripping the edge of her desk, as if the force of her will could protect the woman on the other end of the line. Suddenly, there was a crash, a splintering sound that made Emma flinch. The woman screamed, and the phone went dead. Emma's training told her to stay composed, but her hands trembled as she tried to reconnect the call. No answer. She updated the officers, urging them to hurry, her stomach sinking as every second dragged on. When the officers arrived, they found the house in chaos. The front door had been forced open and the upstairs bedroom was in disarray. But what chilled them and Emma to the core was the closet. Its door hung ajar, and inside was the woman's phone, lying on the floor with the call still active. There was no sign of the woman. The officers combed the area, searching the woods and nearby properties, but she was never found. The case became a chilling mystery, a ghost story for the small, tight-knit town. For Emma, it was something far worse. Every time she worked a night shift, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching, lurking just beyond the glow of her monitors. And every time the phone rang, she braced herself, wondering if it would be her turn to hear something in the darkness she couldn't explain.
Story number 2.
It was nearing the end of the shift, 3:45 a.m., and Taylor was counting down the minutes until sunrise. The dispatcher room felt particularly cold that night, the kind of chill that seeped into her bones, no matter how tightly she wrapped herself in her cardigan. The night had been unusually quiet, save for the occasional welfare check or routine patrol updates. Taylor had just taken a sip of her now cold coffee when the phone rang, its shrill tone cutting through the silence. 911. What's your emergency? She answered, her voice routine and professional. A faint static greeted her, followed by a voice so quiet she had to press the receiver to her ear. It was a child, a girl, no older than 10 by the sound of it. There's someone outside, the girl said, her voice trembling. Taylor immediately sat up straight, her instincts flaring. Okay, sweetie, I'm here to help. What's your name? The girl hesitated. Lila. Hi, Lila. Where are your parents? They're sleeping. I don't want to wake them up, Lila whispered, her words catching on a sob. Taylor's fingers flew over the keyboard to trace the call. It pinged back to an address in a rural area, miles from any major road. She quickly dispatched officers to the location. Can you tell me what's happening, Lila? What do you see? I'm in my room. I saw him through the window. He's standing by the tree. Taylor's stomach nodded. Is the house locked? All the doors and windows? I think so, Lila said, her voice breaking. But he keeps looking up at me. Taylor's hand tightened on the receiver. You're doing great, Lila. Don't take your eyes off him. The police are coming. A pause. Then, in a voice so faint, Taylor almost missed it, Lila said, he's smiling. The word sent a shiver down Taylor's spine. She adjusted her headset, struggling to keep her voice calm. What does he look like? He's tall. He has long arms, and his face is pale. His eyes are too big, Lila whispered. Taylor's pulse quickened. Is he moving? Another pause. Taylor could hear Lila breathing, shallow and quick. He's waving at me now. Okay, Lila, stay calm. Can you go wake your parents and get to a safe room? No, Lila said, almost too quickly. I don't want him to hear me. Taylor checked the officer's ETA, still 7 minutes out. She racked her brain for something to say to keep Lila focused and calm. Is he still by the tree? Lila didn't respond immediately. Then her voice dropped to a terrified whisper. No, he's not there anymore. Taylor felt her heart slam against her ribs. Where is he, Lila? I don't know. I don't see him. Taylor's eyes darted to the clock. The officers were still too far away. She couldn't let Lila panic. Okay, Lila, listen to me. Stay as quiet as you can. I want you to hide somewhere safe, okay? Can you do that? There was a rustling sound on the other end of the line, then Lila's whisper, Okay, I'm under the bed. Taylor's hands trembled as she updated the officers. She listened closely, straining to hear anything in the background. You're doing so well, Lila. Just stay quiet. You're very brave. For a moment there was silence. Then, faintly, Lila spoke again. I hear him. Taylor's breath caught. Where is he? Her voice was so small it barely reached Taylor's ears. In the house. The words hung in the air like a curse. Taylor fought the rising panic clawing at her throat. Stay absolutely still, Lila. Don't make a sound. The line went quiet again, save for Lila's shaky breathing. Then, out of nowhere, a new sound emerged. Heavy footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Getting closer. Taylor's stomach sank. Lila, stay with me. Don't hang up. The footsteps stopped, and Taylor held her breath, her fingers frozen on the keyboard. She could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. He's in my room, Lila whispered. Taylor's voice cracked. The officers are almost there, Lila. Just stay hidden. Don't move. The sound of something dragging across the floor filled the line. Taylor couldn't tell what it was. Wood? Fabric? And then Lila's terrified gasp. He's bending down. Lila, Taylor shouted, unable to stop herself. But the call went dead. The officers arrived minutes later, but by then, it was too late. They found the house eerily quiet, the parents still sound asleep in their room. Lila's bedroom was empty. The only sign she had been there was her tiny stuffed rabbit lying in the middle of the floor. The window was open, the curtains billowing in the cold night air. To this day, Lila has never been found. But what haunted Taylor most was the final note in the police report. Beneath the window, in the dirt outside, were enormous footprints, far too large to belong to any human.
Story number 3.
The night was dragging on for Laura, a seasoned dispatcher who had seen and heard it all, or so she thought. At 3:27 a.m., when her headset crackled to life with a call, she expected another mundane complaint, or perhaps a noise disturbance. Instead, she was greeted by the sound of someone crying softly. 911. What's your emergency? She asked, her voice steady despite the unsettling start. For a moment, there was no response, just the sound of muffled sobs. Then, a woman's voice broke through, trembling with fear. He's in my house. Laura's posture stiffened. Who's in your house, ma'am? Can you see him? I don't know who he is, the woman whispered, her voice thick with panic. I was asleep and I heard footsteps. He's in the hallway. Laura quickly traced the call. The address popped up. A small, isolated farmhouse nearly 20 miles from the nearest police station. She dispatched officers immediately, but she knew they were at least 15 minutes out. Ma'am, I need you to stay calm. Can you lock yourself in a room? I'm in the bathroom, the woman replied, her words barely audible. I locked the door, but I can hear him outside. Laura's heart raced, but her training kept her composed. You're doing great. Stay as quiet as possible. What does he look like? I haven't seen his face, just his shadow under the door. The fear in the woman's voice was palpable, and Laura's own imagination started to conjure terrifying images. She heard a faint creak through the phone, then the woman's panicked whisper. "Oh no, the doorknob. It's turning." Laura's blood ran cold. "Stay silent. Don't make a sound. Help is on the way." The woman's breathing grew ragged, and Laura could hear faint scratching noises in the background. Then the woman spoke again, her voice trembling with disbelief. He's whispering my name." Laura froze. "How does he know your name?" "I don't know," the woman whimpered. "It sounds like he's right on the other side of the door." The line went silent for a moment, except for the woman's shallow breathing. Then suddenly, there was a loud bang, a forceful impact against the bathroom door. The woman screamed, and the phone clattered to the floor. "Ma'am? Are you there?" Laura shouted, her voice breaking for the first time in years. There was no response, just the sound of heavy breathing and something dragging across the floor. Then a male voice came through the line, deep and chilling. "She's gone." Laura's blood turned to ice. "Who is this? Where is she?" The voice chuckled, a low, guttural sound that made her skin crawl. Then the line went dead. Laura sat frozen, staring at the blinking cursor on her screen. When the officers arrived at the farmhouse, they found the front door ajar. The bathroom door had been smashed in, and the phone was lying in a pool of water. But the woman was gone, with no sign of a struggle or footprints leading away from the house. The only clue was a single word scrawled on the bathroom mirror in what appeared to be condensation, though the house was warm. Laura. To this day, Laura doesn't work night shifts. She can't, because every time the phone rings, she hears that voice in her head whispering her name.
Story number 4.
The night shift was always unpredictable, but this one had an oppressive, almost suffocating stillness. Chris, a rookie dispatcher, had been on edge all night without knowing why. The room was unusually quiet, save for the low hum of the monitors. He tried to shake off the unease, telling himself it was just his imagination, but deep down he knew something was off. At 2:46 a.m., the phone rang. Chris answered immediately, grateful for the distraction. 911. What's your emergency? For a moment there was only silence, the kind that made his skin crawl. Then a faint voice spoke, a man whispering so softly Chris had to strain to hear him. "Help me, please." Chris leaned forward, his heart picking up speed. "Sir, what's your location? Are you in danger?" The man's voice wavered, barely above a breath. I don't know where I am. It's so dark." Chris frowned and quickly checked the call trace. It came from a dense, forested area near the outskirts of town. There were no houses or businesses there, just miles of trees. "Can you describe your surroundings? Are you outside?" "Yes, I think I'm in the woods," the man said. "I was driving and I don't remember how I got here. There's something out here with me." Chris felt a chill creep up his spine. "What do you mean? Can you see someone?" "No," the man whispered. "It's not someone. It's watching me." A faint rustling sound came through the line, followed by the man's shaky breathing. Chris typed frantically, dispatching officers to the GPS location. "Stay on the line with me. What's watching you?" The man's breathing hitched. "It's tall, so tall, and its eyes, they're glowing. It's standing in the trees. It hasn't moved, but I can feel it watching me." Chris's mouth went dry. "Stay calm. Officers are on their way. Do not approach it." "I'm not moving," the man said, his voice trembling, "but it's getting closer." Chris's hands froze over the keyboard. "You said it hasn't moved. Are you sure?" "I don't know how it's doing it," the man cried, his voice breaking. "It's just closer now. I can see its teeth. They're too big." The line crackled, and Chris thought he heard something faint in the background, a low, guttural growl that made his skin crawl. "Can you hide?" Chris asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "There's nowhere to hide," the man whispered. "It's just trees. It's almost here." Chris heard a loud snap through the phone, like a branch breaking underfoot, followed by the man's terrified gasp. "It's smiling at me," the man choked out, his voice barely audible. "I think it wants me to." The line went dead. Chris stared at the phone, his heart pounding. He tried to reconnect the call, but it wouldn't go through. When the officers arrived at the location, they found the man's car abandoned on a dirt road. The driver's side door was open, and the keys were still in the ignition. There were no signs of a struggle, just deep, claw-like marks on the hood of the car. The officers searched the area, but found no trace of the man, only a faint smell of rot hanging in the cold night air. Chris couldn't shake the sound of the man's final words or the haunting silence that followed. To this day, whenever a call comes in from that area, he feels his pulse quicken and wonders if it's still out there, watching.
Story number 5.
The clock read 3:12 a.m., the hour when dispatch calls often felt the most unnerving. Maddie, a veteran dispatcher, had seen her fair share of horror. Domestic disputes turned deadly, high-speed chases ending in tragedy. But what came that night would haunt her forever. The call came in abruptly, the harsh tones startling her from her coffee-fueled trance. She answered with her usual professionalism. 911. What's your emergency? A woman's voice came through. Shaky but desperate. Please, you have to help me. He's coming. Maddie's fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to type. Who's coming? Can you tell me your location? I'm in my house, the woman said, her words rushed and frantic. I've locked all the doors, but he's outside. He's staring at me. Maddie's computer traced the call to a small suburban home at the edge of town. She dispatched officers immediately, her instincts telling her this was serious. Stay on the line with me. Do you know this person? The woman's voice cracked. No, he's wearing a mask. He's just standing in my yard, staring at me through the window. Maddie's chest tightened. She'd handled calls about prowlers before, but something about this one felt off. Okay, you're doing great. Are all your doors and windows locked? Yes, but... The woman hesitated, and Maddie could hear her breathing quicken. He's moving now. He's walking toward the back of the house. Stay where you are, Maddie instructed firmly. Officers are on their way. Can you move to a safer room like a bathroom or closet? I'm in the kitchen, the woman whispered. I can see him through the back door. Maddie's heart raced. Is the back door locked? Yes, the woman said, but her voice was trembling. Oh God, he's holding something. It's a knife. Maddie typed furiously, updating the officers. Do not engage with him. Can you move somewhere out of sight? The woman's voice dropped to a whisper. He's tapping on the glass. Maddie clenched her fist, trying to remain calm. Stay quiet. Don't let him know you're on the phone. The tapping grew louder, a rhythmic, deliberate sound that Maddie could hear through the line. Then the woman's voice came through, trembling with disbelief. He's smiling at me. Maddie froze. Stay calm. Don't move. The police are almost there. He's pointing at the door handle, the woman said, her voice breaking into a sob. He's opening it. Maddie's blood ran cold. How is he opening it? Is it locked? I thought it was, the woman cried. Maddie could hear the distinct sound of a door creaking open. Run, Maddie said sharply. Find somewhere to hide. Now. The phone clattered, and Maddie could hear hurried footsteps. The woman's panicked breaths filled the line as she whispered, I'm in the pantry. Maddie could hear the faint sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate, moving through the house. She tried to keep her voice steady. You're doing great. Just stay as quiet as you can. The police are only a few minutes away. The woman sobbed softly. He's calling my name. Maddie's pulse quickened. What do you mean? He's saying my name, the woman whispered. How does he know my name? The footsteps grew louder, closer. Then a low, chilling voice came through the phone, distorted and unnatural. It wasn't the woman's voice. It wasn't human. I know everything. The line went dead. When the officers arrived minutes later, they found the house empty. The back door was wide open, but there were no signs of forced entry. The pantry door was ajar, and the woman's phone lay on the floor. The only thing the officers found was a single word scrawled on the kitchen wall in smeared dirt. Run. The woman was never found. Maddie left dispatching a month later, unable to shake the memory of that call or the eerie, distorted voice that seemed to echo in her mind.
Story number 6.
The dispatch room was unusually quiet when the call came in, the kind of silence that made the hairs on the back of Clara's neck stand on end. It was 2:58 a.m., the hour when the most unsettling calls always seemed to happen. She picked up the phone, her voice calm and professional. 911, what's your emergency? There was a pause, then a voice. A man, frantic and out of breath. I need help, please. There's something. I don't know what it is, but it's chasing me. Clara's fingers immediately went to the keyboard. Sir, where are you? Can you describe your location? I'm in the woods, the man stammered. I don't know where exactly. I was driving, and it ran in front of my car. I stopped, and now I'm in the woods, but it's following me. Clara felt her chest tighten. The GPS traced the call to an area near Black Hollow Forest, a dense, sprawling woodland known for its maze-like trails. Okay, Stay calm. Can you tell me what you saw? What's following you? I don't know, the man said, his voice trembling. It was tall, too tall, and fast. I only saw it for a second, but its eyes... Oh, God, its eyes. What about its eyes? Clara asked, her voice steady despite the chill running down her spine. They're red, bright red, and it smiles at me, the man said, his words choking on a sob. It's not human. It's not. The line crackled, and Clara heard a distant sound, something between a growl and a laugh. The man let out a terrified gasp. It's close. I can hear it. Please help me. Clara dispatched officers to the GPS location, but she knew the area's reputation. People who went missing in Black Hollow Forest were rarely found. Stay on the line with me, she said. Can you find somewhere to hide? There's nowhere to hide, the man cried. It's everywhere. It's watching me from the trees. Clara strained to hear, and in the background she caught a faint sound, a low, guttural clicking noise, rhythmic and unnatural. It didn't sound like any animal she knew. Keep moving toward an open area if you can, Clara said. The officers are on their way. I don't think I'm going to make it, the man whispered. It's playing with me. I'll see it ahead of me, and then it's behind me. How does it? The line went silent for a moment, then the man's voice came back, lower, almost a whisper. It's smiling again. I think it wants me to look at it. Don't look at it, Clara said sharply. Keep your focus ahead. Help is coming. The man's breathing quickened. I can't. It's in front of me now. It's not moving, but I can feel it pulling me. The clicking sound grew louder, almost deafening through the phone. Clara's heart pounded. Listen to me. Don't stop. Don't look at it. Keep moving. The man screamed, a raw, blood-curdling sound that made Clara's blood run cold. The line went dead. Officers searched Black Hollow Forest for hours. They found the man's car parked on the roadside, the driver's side door open. A faint trail of footprints led into the woods, but it ended abruptly in a small clearing. There was no sign of the man, but in the middle of the clearing, carved into the bark of a tree, was a single word: smile. Clara never forgot that call, and she could never explain the clicking sound that seemed to echo in her nightmares. Black Hollow Forest still sits at the edge of town, dark and silent, its secrets waiting for the next unlucky soul who dares to stop and look.
Story number 7.
It was nearing the end of Jenna's shift, and the dispatch center was unusually quiet. The hum of computers and the occasional crackle of a police radio were the only sounds keeping her company. Then the phone rang, a single sharp note that made her jolt. 911. What's your emergency? Jenna answered, slipping into her professional tone. At first, there was nothing, just static and faint rustling. Then a child's voice, soft and trembling, came through the line. Can you help me? I'm lost. Jenna straightened in her chair. Of course, sweetie. What's your name? Eli, the boy said, his voice barely above a whisper. Hi, Eli. How old are you? Jenna asked, her fingers typing quickly to trace the call. I'm 6, he replied. The trace came back. The call was coming from a remote stretch of woods just outside town. Jenna frowned. Where are your parents, Eli? Are you alone? Yes, Eli said, and his voice cracked. I don't know where they are. I woke up, and they were gone. Jenna's heart ached at the fear in his voice. Okay, Eli, can you tell me where you are? Do you see anything around you? There was a pause, then the boy said, Trees, just trees. Jenna dispatched officers to the location and tried to keep Eli talking. Are you hurt? Can you walk? I'm not hurt, Eli said, but I'm scared. There's a man watching me. The words sent a chill down Jenna's spine. A man? Where is he? He's far away, Eli whispered. But he's getting closer. Jenna's fingers flew over the keyboard as she relayed the information to the responding officers. Stay where you are, Eli. Don't go near him. Can you hide? I don't think he can see me yet, Eli said. But he's smiling at me. Jenna's stomach dropped. Stay calm, Eli. The police are coming. Just stay quiet and don't let him know you're there. Eli didn't respond right away. Then, in a voice so small Jenna almost missed it, he said, He's waving at me. Jenna's pulse quickened. Eli, don't look at him. Just focus on me, okay? Can you tell me what he looks like? He's tall, Eli said, his voice trembling, and his arms are too long. He doesn't look right. Jenna felt the cold sweat on her back. She glanced at the officer's ETA, still 10 minutes away. You're doing great, Eli. Just stay hidden. The line went quiet except for Eli's shaky breaths. Then he whispered, He's walking toward me. Don't move, Jenna said quickly. Don't make a sound. Eli started to cry softly. I can't run. He's too fast. The static on the line grew louder, and Jenna thought she heard something else, faint, almost imperceptible, like a deep, guttural clicking. Eli? Jenna called, her voice steady despite her racing heart. Are you there? I don't think he's real, Eli said, his voice hollow. But he's here. The line crackled and went dead. When the officers arrived at the location, they found nothing. No sign of a child, no tracks, just an eerie stillness in the air. They searched for hours but found no trace of Eli or anyone else. The only thing they discovered was a small stuffed bear sitting upright in the middle of a clearing. Its fur was damp with dew, its button eyes staring blankly into the trees. Jenna replayed the call in her head for weeks, unable to shake the sound of Eli's voice or the unnatural clicking that still haunted her dreams. The woods remained quiet, but the locals swore they sometimes saw strange shadows moving between the trees late at night, watching and waiting.
Story number 8.
The clock struck 3:06 a.m., and dispatch was eerily quiet, the kind of quiet that made Alice's skin prickle. She sat at her desk, sipping lukewarm coffee when the phone rang, cutting through the silence like a blade. 911, what's your emergency? Alice asked, her tone calm and professional. For a moment there was only static, then a woman's voice, shaky and urgent. He's in my house. Alice straightened, her fingers poised over the keyboard. Who's in your house, ma'am? Do you know him? No, the woman said, her voice trembling. I was asleep and I heard something. When I went to check, he was just standing in the hallway. Alice felt a chill run down her spine. Where are you now? In the closet, the woman whispered. I locked the door, but he's still out there. Alice quickly dispatched officers to the location. The house was in a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind where nothing ever happened, or so everyone believed. Stay quiet and don't hang up. Can you describe him? There was a long pause, and then the woman said, He's tall. His head almost touches the ceiling, and his face isn't right. Alice's fingers hovered over the keyboard. What do you mean, ma'am? What's wrong with his face? It's stretched, the woman whispered, her voice breaking. Like someone pulled it too tight, and his eyes, they're too big, they don't look human. Alice's chest tightened. She'd heard her share of strange calls, but this was different. You're doing great. Stay hidden. The police are just a few minutes away. The line went silent for a moment, except for the woman's shallow breathing. Then she spoke again, her voice barely audible. I think he knows I'm here. Alice's heart raced. What makes you say that? I can hear him, the woman said, tears evident in her voice. He's whispering, he's saying my name. Alice felt a cold chill settle over her. Stay quiet. Don't respond. Help is almost there. The woman let out a soft sob. He's scratching at the door now. Alice heard it too, a faint, rhythmic scratching sound coming through the phone. The sound made her skin crawl. The officers are less than 2 minutes away. Just stay where you are. The scratching stopped abruptly, replaced by silence. The woman let out a shaky breath. I think he's gone. Before Alice could respond, there was a deafening bang, a sound so loud it made Alice flinch. The woman screamed and the phone clattered to the floor. Ma'am, are you there? Alice called, her voice trembling for the first time. There was no answer, just heavy, distorted breathing on the other end. Who is this? Alice demanded. A low, guttural voice replied, almost playful. You can't save her. The line went dead. When the officers arrived, they found the front door ajar and the house in complete disarray. The closet door had been ripped from its hinges and the woman was gone. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood, no footprints, no clues, just the faint smell of burnt wood lingering in the air. On the floor of the closet, they found her phone. On its screen, a single word had been typed but never sent. Run. Alice stayed at her post until the end of her shift, but she couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching her. Later that night, as she left the station, she thought she saw a figure standing at the edge of the parking lot, tall and still, with eyes that seemed far too big.
Story number 9.
The night had a heavy stillness to it, the kind that made even the hum of the dispatch monitors feel intrusive. Karen had been working the night shift for years, and while she'd handled her share of unsettling calls, this one started differently. The phone rang at 2:37 a.m., and when she answered, there was no voice on the other end, just faint, muffled breathing. 911. What's your emergency? She asked, her voice steady. The breathing continued, shallow and rhythmic. Karen checked the system, but the call wasn't tracing to any location. That was odd. Hello? Can you hear me? If you need help, say something. Then a voice, low and raspy, cut through the line. They're all gone. Karen's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Who's gone? Where are you? The voice cracked as if the speaker was on the verge of tears. I can't find them. The lights went out, and now they're all gone. The hairs on the back of Karen's neck stood up. What's your name? Where are you calling from? The voice ignored her questions. I heard something in the dark. It was laughing, but it wasn't human. I ran, but I think it's still here. Karen's pulse quickened. Stay calm. Can you describe where you are? Are you indoors or outside? Indoors, the voice said, trembling. But I don't recognize this place anymore. The walls are wrong. Karen frowned. What do you mean by wrong? Are you injured? Can you see anything around you? There was a pause, then the voice whispered, the doors keep moving. I go through one and I'm back where I started. Karen's fingers hesitated over the keys. Are you in a building, a house? Can you find a window? The voice grew quieter, almost childlike. There are no windows, just doors, and I think it's behind one of them. Karen's mouth went dry. What's behind the door? Can you hear or see anything? The voice let out a shaky breath. I saw its shadow. It's not like us. It's wrong. Too many arms. Karen quickly typed a report, trying to figure out how to dispatch help to a call with no traceable location. She glanced at her screen. Still nothing. I'm going to keep you on the line. Don't open any doors if you feel unsafe. The voice cracked again, rising in pitch. It's whispering my name now. How does it know my name? Karen's breath caught. What's your name? Silence. Hello? Can you hear me? Karen's voice edged toward panic. Then the voice returned, no longer whispering but clear and cold. I don't remember. Karen felt a chill run down her spine. Stay with me. We'll figure this out. It's opening the doors, the voice said, trembling. It's coming for me. The line crackled, and Karen thought she heard something faint in the background, a sound like nails scraping against wood, followed by a deep, guttural laugh. Stay calm. Don't move. Just stay where you are, Karen said, her own voice shaking now. I can see it, the voice whispered almost inaudibly. It's smiling at me. It wants me to follow it. The call ended abruptly, leaving only a high-pitched tone in Karen's ear. When the tech team investigated the call later, they found no record of it. No phone number, no traceable origin. It was as if the call had never existed. Karen tried to move on, but the voice haunted her. Every so often, in the middle of the night, she would swear she heard faint whispering coming from her headset, a voice calling her name, soft and cold, with just the hint of a smile.
Story number 10.
The night had dragged on uneventfully until 3:15 a.m., the hour when dispatch calls often took on an eerie edge. Lydia was halfway through her third cup of coffee when the phone rang. She answered quickly, her voice steady despite the late hour. 911. What's your emergency? There was silence, thick and heavy. Then a voice, soft and childlike, whispered, Can you help me? Lydia's fingers froze over the keyboard. Of course. What's your name, sweetheart? The voice hesitated. Abby. Hi, Abby. How old are you? I'm 8, she said, her tone trembling. Okay, Abby. Where are you? Are you at home? Lydia asked, glancing at the GPS trace. The system pinpointed the call to an old abandoned farmhouse miles outside of town, a place that had been empty for years. No, Abby said. I don't know where I am. It's dark. I'm scared. Lydia's chest tightened. Are you alone? There was a long pause. Then Abby whispered, I think so. But sometimes I hear someone. Lydia tried to stay calm. What do you hear, Abby? Footsteps, she said. They come closer, but when I call out, no one answers. Lydia quickly dispatched officers to the location. Abby, are you hurt? Can you see anything around you? I'm not hurt, Abby said, her voice trembling. But I don't see anything. It's so dark and cold. Stay on the line with me, Abby, Lydia said, typing furiously. Help is on the way. The line went silent for a moment, typing 5, and Lydia thought the call had dropped. Then Abby spoke again, her voice barely audible. I think it's here. Lydia felt her stomach drop. What's there, Abby? It doesn't talk, Abby whispered. But it smiles. I can see it in the dark. Lydia's hands shook as she typed. Abby, stay as quiet as you can. Don't move. I tried to hide, Abby said, her voice cracking. But it always finds me. It knows where I go. The sound of faint footsteps came through the line, slow and deliberate, and Lydia's breath caught. Abby, stay with me. Just stay quiet. Help is almost there. I can hear it, Abby whispered. It's outside the door. Lydia strained to hear. The footsteps stopped, replaced by a soft, rhythmic tapping sound. It was coming from the phone. Abby? Lydia called, her voice trembling. Are you okay? There was no response, just the tapping growing louder and faster. Then a deep, distorted voice came through the line, guttural and chilling. Leave her alone. The call cut out abruptly. When officers arrived at the farmhouse, they found it empty. Dust covered every surface, undisturbed for years. There was no sign of Abby or anyone else. But in the middle of the room, carved into the wooden floor, were 2 words: "She's mine." Lydia couldn't shake the call. The voice, the tapping, the chilling message, it all felt too real. And late at night, as she sat alone in the dispatch center, she sometimes thought she heard faint whispers in her headset, calling her name from somewhere far too close.